I'm back. I know it's been a while since I've done a podcast like this. It's been kind of busy in my personal life. Plus, I took a little bit of a time off. I took a small family vacation. Took some time to kind of rest and relax and recover. This is technically the off season for cornhole, but I know we still have to finish up last season. I haven't recapped Worlds for ACO or ACL. Can you touch on that? Some things I noticed during there that it's some issues I want to talk about, as well as some things that I think we need to talk about ways to maybe improve the viewership or the viewer experience for the customers, the consumers, for us out there. I want to throw some ideas out there to you guys, get your opinions on that. I also want to talk about there's already been some announcements, some big partner changes in the ACL coming out for the new 25-26 season. Discuss those with you guys. There's been some bad companies that have switched from the ACL to the ACO, kind of bring that up. But the first thing I want to jump in is maybe I don't know if it's the biggest issue. It's the biggest, I think, black eye for the ACL, and that's all cornhole. All Cornhole has not been paying their pro players. I heard rumors about this 6-8 months ago, but I really couldn't confirm it. I had no concrete evidence to really go out there and say, put the information out there. And I don't really feel like I'm the type of podcast that's going to do the breaking news. I'm not the Adam Schefter of cornholes. I really didn't want to put information out there if I wasn't 100% accurate. I did drop hints because I do have those quote unquote conspiracy theories that I put out. And sometimes most of the time, those conspiracy theories that I put out are actually based in some sort of rumor or some sort of evidence that I have heard or collected, but don't have enough to confirm it. So it becomes more of a conspiracy theory than an actual fact. I knew all cornhole was having financial issues. I didn't know how much. I didn't know exactly what was going on, and so again, I do want to put that out there. The problem is Stacy Moore, and most people know Stacy Moore is tied to the ACL and tied to all cornhole. I don't know how much ownership interest Stacy Moore has in all cornhole. I also don't know how much he has ownership in the ACL. I don't know. I don't think he's a full owner in either one of them. I think he's kind of a partner in there. I just don't know if he's a majority owner in either one. I don't know, but he is the connection between all cornhole and the ACL. The ACL use all cornhole for their boards. If you look at the broadcast boards, they're all cornhole boards. And now you have this company not paying the pro players, which is just a massive black eye for the ACL. This is a huge problem. Every year it seems like there's always a company in the ACL, a bad company that we find out is not paying their pro players or having financial issues, not being able to make it. I don't know why the ACL seems to have the ACL seems it seems to be the league that has this issue. I don't really recall hearing of ACO bad companies that aren't paying their pro players. Maybe they're out there. They just haven't been made public. Maybe I just haven't heard about it. I don't know. It just seems like it's always the ACL side this happens on. And it's not a lot of companies. It's usually, I think it's like one company almost every year we seem to hear about this. It's not like it's a major problem. But this year it is a big name company. Now, I've heard rumors that all cornhole is going to be shutting down. That they're not going to be making bags for the 25-26 season. Which, if that's true, then that kind of solves the problem to some degree. But if it's not, the ACL needs to step up and protect its players. And the first thing it can do is make sure all cornhole doesn't come back with an ACL stamp. To me, if a bad company doesn't honor its contracts and pay its players, I think that has to some way violate the contract the bad company has with the ACL. I don't know the contracts between the bad company and ACL. I don't know the contract between the players and the bad companies. I don't know. I haven't seen a contract. I don't know. There's got to be something in between the ACL and the bad companies about conduct detrimental to the league or conduct that harms the league or something along that lines. Not paying your pro players, to me, is conduct that is detrimental to the league. I really do think that's bad for the league, a bad look, a bad image for the league. That should be enough to be a violation of that contract and be enough for the ACL to take that stamp away and say you're not welcome back next year. I hope they do that. So if all cornhole stays in business, I hope they don't come back to the ACL. I don't care that Stacy Moore's tied to him. I don't care. And I wish, in some ways, I wish Stacy Moore would come out and put a statement out there and just let us know what's going on. I feel like sometimes the ACL just kind of goes and hides. When something happens in the ACL, I feel like they run and hide and just hope it goes away. They don't want to say anything. Where you hear in other leagues, I feel like every time I hear something in the NFL or the NBA or the Major League Baseball, hockey, golf, whatever, they end up putting a statement out. They put a statement out and say, "Here's what's going on," and they at least give you some information. I never hear that from the ACL. I never hear an official statement come out when they have issues like this. And this is something that I think deems an official statement of what's going on. I also don't really understand because those players that threw all cornhole bags, they continue to throw them all season. They were throwing them even at Worlds. I don't know. From my understanding, the contract between the players and the bag companies is not really a great contract. I've heard it doesn't really hold up. It probably wouldn't hold up in court if something happened. I know in the past that some of the players who didn't get paid from previous bag companies, I heard from a couple of them that actually talked to lawyers and was told that there's really nothing they can do. The contract really isn't that great of a contract. So I don't understand. I don't really know why those players continue to throw all cornhole bags. I feel like once the payments were missed, now maybe the contract doesn't state when the payments are made, which is maybe something that needs to. If I'm a pro player signing or any player signing a contract with a bag company, you probably want to make sure that everything's broke down exactly what you're getting paid and when, so that if something doesn't happen at the right time, you at least have some way to hold them accountable, right? Because if I'm throwing all cornhole bags and they're not paying me, I would stop. I would not. Once that payment's missed, I'm no longer throwing those bags, right? We're done. The contract is void. I'm gonna go find a partner somewhere else. I'm because it doesn't benefit you to stay with a company that isn't paying you, right? If the money's not coming in, you got to go. Now, I don't know the situation of the players. Maybe they all had different situations. Maybe all cornhole was promising different things. I don't know. I don't know the details. So I'm not trying to say they did the wrong thing. Just saying from a player perspective, I feel like if I'm not getting paid, I'm not throwing your bags. I'm not supporting you until you go back to paying me, or maybe I don't support you at all. I find a better opportunity somewhere else. But anyway, something's got to be done with this. All cornhole needs to be, their stamp needs to go away. We shouldn't see them in the ACL again. I hope the ACL makes that call if all cornhole stays in business. Jump into Worlds. A couple things I want to talk about. First, I want to talk about, I watched both the ACO Worlds and the ACL Worlds. They kind of happened back-to-back weeks. When the ACL Worlds was taking place, I was actually on vacation. I had to watch more of that content. The ACO Worlds was tough to watch because I was working. And that's one of my issues I have is, I know I get Worlds. There's a lot going on at World events. A lot of things happen during the day, but for a lot of us that have jobs full time, and I mean, the problem is some people have jobs at night, so even evenings don't work. Have jobs during the week. Some people work on the weekends, so it doesn't really matter. There's no way to be perfect for everybody, but there's got to be a better way to stream this content for us to watch games. Because sometimes I come home, I turn it on, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Because I'm in the middle of a stream. It's been going on for a couple hours. I jump in. I've got to figure out what's going on. I don't know how an easy way to find out what's going on. And look, I know the ACL has their fan zone app. The ACO has Scoreholio, and you can go pull the brackets up. But even that, it takes a little bit of work to find it. There's got to be an easier way. And I don't know the answer. I think this may be part of the problem with cornhole in general as a viewer type sport for consumers, right? I've always said cornhole is a participation sport, not a viewing sport. And that's part of the problem, I think, with these pro leagues is you got to have people that want to watch it in order for the advertisers to want to pay to sponsor that and support that. And without the viewers, the advertisers aren't there. Without the advertisers, you don't have the money. So it's hard to pay the players and make it a really legit pro league. So we got to figure out a way to fix it so that from the viewership side, it's easier for me to, one, find the content, to watch the content, and to keep up with what's going on. The solution I have, at least temporarily, is more streaming courts, because I do hate the fact that there's one, for most events, there's one streaming court. Sometimes for Worlds, and I think the ACO had a couple streaming courts, maybe, I don't know if it was 2 or 3, which was better. The ACL, they do theirs on like YouTube and Facebook's one court, and then ESPN Plus another one. The problem with that is it's impossible to flip between the two. At least for me on my service and streaming apps, to go to leave YouTube, go to ESPN and come back, it's a process. It's just not worth it. It's too much hassle. I usually don't do that. At least for the ACO side, they were streaming all on YouTube, so I could jump back and forth between streams when those breaks and whatever like that. I would love to see. I think for me to make it easy to follow along is have a streaming court for each bracket. So I know on the ACL side, a lot of times they have 4 brackets at their opens and signature events. So 4 brackets. Have a streaming court for each bracket, like that main court, and you take the quote unquote best matchup and you put it on the streaming court, right? And you do that. You don't have to have announcers for every one of those courts. I just want cameras there. I'm okay watching a match and having no one talk. I'm not trying to attack or take a shot at any of the announcers of either leagues, but honestly, I don't necessarily need announcers, need commentators when I'm watching a cornhole match. Sometimes they bring value, and it's great. I do love when they're there. I don't think they take away. I think they add to it. But I'm okay just watching people play cornhole. And honestly, put some mics at the boards, into the boards, and let's hear the players. Let's hear any talk going on there. That's fine. That's all I need to hear. I don't need to have commentators all the time. So give me options on YouTube. I'd rather be on YouTube, right? My dislike, my hatred for ESPN, ESPN Plus. YouTube's a bigger platform than ESPN. I don't understand it. YouTube is the largest platform for viewership in the world. Like, there's no one else that has more viewers on it than YouTube. Way more than ESPN has. And you look at this younger generation, which is the future players, the future viewers of cornhole. Most of those don't go to ESPN unless they're looking for a specific program, a specific event, or whatever. Most of those are on YouTube all the time. And YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, that's where they're spending their time. That's where the content needs to be. My kids hardly ever. I don't think my kids ever go to ESPN unless they're looking for a certain event. They're never just scrolling through. Going, let me see what's on ESPN. Right. Growing up as a kid, that's kind of what we did. What I did. Right. I was always ESPN, but we didn't really have the streaming networks and avenues we do now. So YouTube is a place to be. I said this over again. I wish more of these leagues would go to YouTube. I wish the ACL, really, they're the only ones, would get rid of ESPN and go strictly to YouTube. Save that money that you're paying ESPN and dump it back into prize pools or put it back into the league and better invest that. Anyway, let's have multiple streaming courts. And the same with the ACO. We can have multiple courts for the different brackets or just to get more matchups out there, right? The more, because early in the tournament, it's easy to find games. But as you get later and later and there's fewer and fewer games being played, sometimes there are gaps. And sometimes you get, 5, 10, 15-minute gap between matches, which as a viewer, if I'm watching and there's a long gap, a long break between the two, it's easy for me to flip off and go somewhere else. And then maybe I don't end up back on that stream. And so as a league, you don't want to give your viewers an opportunity to leave. So keep the content flowing and give an opportunity, right? Okay, maybe there's a gap here. Flip over to this one, or let them flip over to this stream or that stream, or direct them over there. And honestly, if there's nothing on the main court and your commentators are have nothing to commentate on, they can go watch the other stream and they can commentate from watching it. They don't have to necessarily be seeing it live. They can commentate and watch it. Part of my reason for this is I go back to the ACL Worlds. There was a match between Cass Chamness and Mark Richards. So some people say it was like a 50-round game between those two. Some people have commented it was like the greatest game they've ever seen. I want to pull it up here real quick. Let me bring this up. So this is what we saw on the stream, right? This is them trying to I give kudos to the ACL for trying to at least get this content because there was nothing going on in the main court, so there's nothing to show. But the problem is you look right now, we can see that far board, so you can kind of watch it from here, right? It's not that big a deal. The problem is when they turn it through the other way, we can't see this near board at all. So you're seeing half of the game. You're missing part of it. It's really tough. It's a tough way to watch the game. It took away, and if you look at the crowd, there's a ton of people watching this, right? You get a lot of viewers watching this here at the event, but those of us on TV, like we're missing half of it, right? Because we're missing this side of it. And to me, if you had 4 streaming courts, this would have been on one of the streaming courts. We would have been able to see it. People could go back and watch replays of it. Even if you don't want a streaming court, just have some like mobile cameras, wireless cameras on a tripod you could set up at these courts. If you go, okay, this is a match I want to watch, go set these up and stream them. I just think having 4 streaming courts, it wouldn't be hard. And you can have the one main court with all the fancy floor and everything set up and have the commentator booth or anything there, and then have 3 other ones for the other brackets that are just kind of generic courts that they just have cameras set up so we can stream. And we don't have to switch cameras. Just have 2 cameras shooting at the 2 boards. And you don't have to keep switching. Just have them there and just have them live streaming all the time. And I can just flip on it if I want to see who's playing. Right? And I think that's at least a better way to improve my viewership experience when I'm watching these matches. Right now, I don't like the fact that I'm narrowed down to the match that the commentators or the ACL wants me to watch, not necessarily the match that I want to watch or the bracket I want to follow. If you have a court for each bracket or somehow a system for it, it's easier if I'm following a bracket. If there's a favorite player or there's someone I'm trying to follow, I can strictly watch that bracket and know what's going on. Because the other problem is when I tune into the stream, I don't always know which bracket that I'm watching, what event's going on. So it's hard for me to know how the outcome of this game affects the entire bracket. So we just need to find a better way to stream these events so as viewers we can follow along easier and make it a better product for us to consume. So more streaming courts is a step in the right direction. I don't think it's the total answer, but it's something that I want to see, and I think it's an easy implementation that the ACL and ACO can put in right away without cameras aren't that expensive. You don't need to buy. You can buy some pretty good quality cameras to stream with in 4K. And you don't have to go 4K, just go 1080p, right? 1080p is good enough for us on YouTube. We don't necessarily need 4K. Most of us are watching our phones or tablets anyway. We're not watching in 4K, but you can buy some pretty cheap 4K cameras just to put up there and just to live stream those without a big investment. And I think that's a small investment to improve our viewership and to maybe bring more viewers in, right? You can get more people watching if you have more options for them, content for them to watch. That makes sense. Next thing I want to jump into is kind of piggybacking off that Cass Chamness, Mark Richards matchup is there was a guy on Facebook, And this was shared in all of the cornhole Facebook groups. It was a guy in the horseshoe world, one of the horseshoe groups. I didn't remember. I stumbled across this and addicted to cornhole Facebook group. There's a guy named Seth Ray that made a post referencing Cash Chamness beating Mark Richards. I'm gonna read this real quick. Not taking anything away from this kid's obvious skills, but he just proved cornhole was just a kid's game by beating the winningest ACL pro. It would be like a cadet having beat Allen. I'm assuming a cadet is a junior in the horseshoe world, and I'm assuming Allen is their winningest pro, I guess. I don't know. I don't know who Allen is. I don't know who the cadet is. But again, this isn't targeted for me. This is targeted for the people in the horseshoe world. I'm sure they know who they were. But Allen also standing at a close distance with a lightweight shoe instead of the cadet having to stand at a full distance with a full weight shoe, at which the cadet would have no chance. So I guess in horseshoes, I think a horseshoe is like 2.5 pounds. It's under 3 pounds for a horseshoe. It's not that heavy. Growing up, my dad and uncle played horseshoes. They played it religiously. We always had horseshoe pits in our backyard. We went to family gatherings, family reunions, any type of events. People were pitching horseshoes. As a kid, I threw horseshoes more than I threw cornhole. And I don't remember ever having an issue throwing as a kid. And I mean, I played at 9 years old. I think I started playing probably 5 or 6 years old. And I mean, I don't remember us playing any closer. I mean, we were forced to play the distance, and we had to learn to throw that horseshoe the full distance. And I don't think it was that big of an issue. Maybe I'm misremembering. I don't know. But it seems to make it seem like it's a problem for these juniors to throw a horseshoe. I think it's 40 feet between the poles. I don't know what you call the poles. They're called poles. I don't know. I think it's 40 feet between them, where cornhole's 27 feet. It's really 30 feet from where you throw to the hole. So I don't. It's not that big of a difference. I don't think it's that big of a problem. But anyway, if a prepubescent little kid can beat the very best adults on the very same playing field with all things equal, then it is in fact a kid's game. Maybe we can use this to promote horseshoes to adult cornholes to elevate their competition level by playing a grown-up's game. Again, not dissing on this kid at all. He crushed it. But if you're an adult cornhole, you got to be having a little introspection about what you're doing right about now. If you like playing kid games, more power to you. But if you want to play it with the grown-ups, we'd love to teach you competitive horseshoes. Okay, this guy Seth had some valid points, and then he kind of took the end, and I think taking shots at cornholers is not the way to bring them over to horseshoes. Not that I think we're going over to horseshoes. I mean, there's a reason that cornhole is blown up and horseshoes hasn't, right? And I think maybe it's something to do with leadership. I don't know. I played horseshoes when I was younger, and I evolved into cornhole, right? I'm not saying cornhole is better than horseshoes. I'm not saying horseshoes is better or worse than cornhole. I don't want to get in that debate. I think they're different sports. Different people like to play different sports. I do think where Seth makes his comment that having a 9-year-old beat the best players in the game, it makes it look like a kid's game. I think there's a lot of validity to that. From outsiders looking in, you see this 9-year-old kid winning against grown adults. It takes away from the game. It makes the game look less intriguing, less appealing, less like a pro sport, more like a game. Look, Cash is an incredible player. Not every kid can do what Cash is doing. But Cash is also not the first. We've seen this before, right? Alex Hicks, if you guys remember, Alex Hicks a few years ago was doing what Cash did. And I think he was a little bit older. I don't think he was 9, but he's done that. Ryan Trader's had success as a junior. Fisher Hamilton's had success as a junior. Braden Wilson's had success as a junior. Like, junior players have success. It's not anything new. So, again, what Cash is doing is incredible. I watch him play. I root for him. I think you have to, right? It's hard not to root for someone like Cash when you see them play. I mean, I root for all the juniors that are playing against the adults. I really do, for the most part. I want to see them have success. But in the end, it really isn't great for the sport of cornhole. It's great for the future to say, okay, these kids are going to hopefully be the future pros. Although, if you go back and look at those juniors I mentioned, the Alex Hicks, the Ryan Trader, the Fisher Hamilton, especially those three, right? They were at the top of the world. They were playing an elite level not too long ago, and then they just kind of fell off for whatever reason. Even someone like a Caleb Batson, right? He won the world championship in doubles, and we didn't see him anywhere this year playing at all. I'm assuming I don't know if he played at all. So there are things. I mean, with juniors, right? There's a lot of things that come up in life that they get to as they get older. They get to do more things, but also there's a growth element as those guys. Like, Cash is going to grow. Alex Hicks went through that, right? He grew. And as you grow, your throw changes. And so you developed a throw now that works great, and you're dialed in with it. But all of a sudden you have a growth spurt, and all of a sudden that same throw doesn't work. And now you've got to relearn a new throw. For those of us who've been through trying to change our throws up, it's difficult. When you relearn a new throw, it takes months and months and months to figure it out and to get it down like you had the old throw. And it's a really tough process to change your throw. And so when these juniors, I think, go through these growth spurts and their bodies change, I think their game level fluctuates up and down, up and down. And I mean, Jackson Gore's a great example, right? Him and Jacob were playing elite level. They both fell off. Now Jackson started to come back. He's figured out. He's one of the few that has figured it out and started to come back. Jacob still hasn't got back to the same level yet. Not saying he can't. Ryan Trader hasn't got back. Alex Hicks hasn't got. They're still playing at a good level. They're not back at that elite level where they were at their top of their game. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see Cash take a dip and come back. Right? I think we're going to see this with the juniors. But in the end, I still have to say that I really think if the ACL and even the ACO, if you want to make cornhole a professional sport, the juniors have to come out of it. You can start your own junior pro league, your junior circuit, whatever, and have them play there. Having these juniors play against the top pros, it's just a bad look for these leagues. And I know some of you may disagree with me, and that's fine. Drop your comments down below. We can have that discussion. But also with the betting side of it, right? ACL is getting in with DraftKings and trying to get gambling, sports betting and gambling part of it. But yet you can't bet on the juniors. So when a junior wins a tournament, it's not a good look for it's not good for DraftKings. It's not good for the ACL. It's not good for those sports betting. In the past, initially the DraftKings would refund the money. If a junior won, everybody got their bets refunded, which wasn't good. Now I think they pay. So if the second or third place finisher is not a junior, whoever the highest finishing non-junior is, that's who gets paid for the winnings, which really isn't the right answer either, because that isn't who won. For the betting side of it, you have to get the juniors out of it. I think for the side of it, for casual viewers to tune in and watch, when they see a 9-year-old kid up there competing, it makes the game look easier than what it is. And again, cash makes the game of cornhole look easy, right? All the elite players make the game look easy when it's really not. For those who play it, we know it's not easy. But for a casual viewer who hasn't played, they go, "Oh, that's an easy game." And for a lot of players, a lot of people who tune in and watch cornhole who haven't really played it at a competitive level, they go, "Oh yeah, I can play cornhole. I used to play really good," until they come out to a competitive event and realize, okay, they're nowhere near as good as they thought they were. They were good at the tailgate. They were good at the family reunions. They get to a competitive event and all of a sudden they're awful. But when you see a kid playing, I think it does take away from us. It takes away from cornhole being called a sport. As long as we have juniors and kids playing, it's still a game. And I think Seth's comments at that side of it are very, very applicable, and I agree with. And so we need to pull those juniors. As much as I hate to see it, and they're some of the best players in the world, pull the juniors out, have a separate junior division, and then once they turn 18, they can come up and they can play in the pro division. I think that's the way that it has to be in order for cornhole to go to the next level and be considered a legitimate sport. Now, on his comments about kids not dominating horseshoes like they do in cornhole, my take on that is, I don't think kids are interested in playing horseshoes, right? Horseshoes is not a growing sport like cornhole is, so kids don't want to go that route, right? Kids can go to cornhole and they can actually win money. They can have success, win money, and it's becoming a more popular sport. It's a quote unquote cooler sport to play than horseshoes. If horseshoes had the popularity that cornhole had, and the kids focused on horseshoes, I think we'd see an explosion of juniors and the youth going in and starting to dominate and take over horseshoes like they do cornhole. I think it's just that kids don't have an interest in playing there, and so his take on grown-ups, on us cornholes wanting to go play a grown-up sport, I think it's a cheap shot at us, and you're not getting me interested in horseshoes by taking shots at me and telling me I'm playing a kid's game, right? You want to invite me over to horseshoes, maybe I'm interested in playing, but taking shots at me is not the way to get me there. So I think his take on the kids and not being able to play right. Let's get some of these kids playing horseshoes as much as they play cornhole, and let's see how well they do at that sport. And honestly, I mean, I don't know who Alan is. I'm sure Alan is a phenomenal horseshoe player, but my guess is that some of the best horseshoe players in the world aren't playing horseshoes because there's not a lot of money there. There's not a lot of incentive to go play there when they can go play a different sport and make more money. Why put your effort in towards horseshoes? So I don't know. It's probably the first time I've ever talked about horseshoes on this podcast. Hopefully it's the last time. I had to bring that up. I thought it was a big enough deal, and it kind of, I think he made some valid points I think people were overlooking because of the shots he was taking on cornholers, and I wanted to touch on that. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, on juniors, and whether you think juniors should be allowed to play, at least at the elite level. I mean, like at your local leagues, it's like that, and juniors want to mix in. I don't have a problem with that. But when it gets to be pro, I think at the pro level, the juniors have to be separate from everyone else. You can have your under 18 and your 18 and over leagues. I think you have to separate those. That's my take on that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. I really do think that's going to be kind of a controversial topic, but I'd love to hear that. Now I want to jump in and talk about the ACL world specifically. A couple things I noticed there watching that. The biggest thing I think is the foot fouls. There were some foot fouls called, more foot fouls called at this one than I think I've ever seen. I don't know if I've ever seen a foot foul called at the Worlds until now. I have no problem with that. I've always been if it's a rule, let's enforce it type of person. So if you don't want to enforce it, take the rule away. If you're going to put the rule in there, enforce it. That's always what I've said. Let's just enforce the rules the way they are. And so this year, I think they did that, but I do have some issues because there were 2 foot fouls that were called that were on the stream that I noticed that were very controversial. There were controversial foot fouls. The first one I'll bring up is the one, and I'm going to start with the advanced division with Espen Jackson and Lonnie Campos. And I want to play this here for you guys. I'm going to pull this up. And let's see if I've got this right. So here we are. We're in a round here. Looks like round 31. And Espen's up 20-17. He's 1 point to win this, right? And I want you to watch Lonnie's foot. He's in the black jersey they're throwing right now. Watch his foot, his front foot. And you'll see him kind of tapping that foot. He's tapping him. He's not stepping, but he keeps lifting and tapping that foot. And on this last bag, not this bag, the next bag he throws, they're going to call a foot foul. And the problem is we have the scoreboard there. We can't see his foot. So right here, he throws, and now the official's calling a foot foul. You can see them stopping. They're looking at what's going on. There's a foot foul call. They're going to go take that bag out of the hole. What that means is now Espen just put a bag on and the game's over, right? That was a 4-bagger for Lonnie. Now he's only got 3 bags in, and that one is DQ'd or whatever. So he's got 9 points. Espen needs a bag on, game's over. You can see, right, you can see it's tough on Espen. I feel like he has a hard time. He doesn't like the way it ends, but it's not his fault. The problem is where that official is standing, in my take, is not a great line of sight to see where Lonnie's foot was. I want to back that up real quick here as well to see if we can see. So as you watch Lonnie here, his front foot, you're going to see him. He keeps tapping, right? He keeps lifting and tapping, lifting and tapping. And that last time he lifted, that last throw, so here's his last bag. He lifts and taps again. And I guess at that point, he must have just barely crept across the line. He was doing it for all of his throws. He kept lifting and tapping every time he threw. I'm guessing that last one he did. The problem is that official's not looking down that line. So my guess is he must have just barely stepped across that line. It must have been just a slight bit across that line because the other 3 throws weren't a violation of that last. So he must have been lifting, just barely creeping up, I guess. My issue with that is I have no problem. If his foot crossed the line, the official did the right thing. I have no problem with that. What the problem is there's been some discussion on Facebook and people posting and commenting about it. And I haven't heard the ACL make a single statement about this. And the ACL needs to step up. You need to step up and protect and support your officials. I would love to see the feed of that. Right? I don't know how the ACL records their streams, but I'm sure they have a video of without the scoreboard. They have that raw footage without the scoreboard there. I want to see that. Let's show that. Let's show that feed to prove the official's right. If the official's right, show that. The fact that they haven't come out leaves doubt in my mind that maybe the video doesn't prove that. Although I just think the ACL just doesn't care. Again, I don't know why the ACL doesn't want to put this information out there, but I do think there needs to be something in place for these players who want. Now, Lonnie didn't have a big reaction, but the problem is he'd already stepped back. He threw it, he stepped back. There's no way to know. He couldn't tell. As far as he knew, he was behind the line. If he knew he was ahead of the line, he wouldn't have thrown that, right? I'm not saying the official's wrong. I can't prove it either way. The official called it. I trust the official made the right call. But again, I think the ACL, I think they need to have a camera. Like the NFL has a pylon camera that looks down the end zone line so you can kind of get that definitive, did the ball cross line or not. Still, sometimes in football, there's some issues because there's other players in the way. And Cornhole, let's have a camera or something down the line, something that we can look at when this comes up. It happens rarely, but we can look at just to verify, protect your officials. Like if that foot of Lonnie's went across the line and you have proof to show that, it shuts everybody up, right? Here it is. It's black and white. There's no question. The official's right. It protects that official. By not saying anything and not doing anything, it leaves a lot of gray area there and makes people question and puts a lot of burden on the official to defend themselves. And that's not fair to these officials aren't paid that much. They're there really kind of giving their time because they love the sport and they want to help the sport. The ACL needs to stand up and protect them. The second time it happened that I saw was AJ Sims and Braden Wilson. I'm going to pull this up here for us real quick. They were playing against Alex Rawls and Derek Holland. And I'm going to bring this up here. All right, so we're already into this match here, and it is AJ and Braden are up 19-17 over Derek and Alex. Alex, I believe, is going to hit an airmail right here, if I remember correctly. So he hits an airmail, right? Now AJ steps out. AJ's gonna step out on the shot. Now look at AJ's leg. Look at where his leg is right there, right above that one, right? He throws it. The official calls the foul. Now watch, AJ comes back and puts his leg there, but it's nowhere near where it was, further over than what it was, right? So they're going to pull the scoreboard. They're going to kind of back out here, I think, in a minute, and they're going to show AJ's foot. But remember, his foot was further over. Now, again, the official's on the opposite side of the court. I don't know how he could tell for sure unless AJ's foot was clearly over by a good margin, which I'll show in a minute that it was very close. So I don't know how the officials saw it. Now, all Alex do is to hit this airmail here, and there they win, right? So instead of it being a 2-point, that would have been 2 points for Alex Rawls, and it would have been tied 19-19. Game over. Game over. And AJ's really upset about that. Now, I want to pull up something here, and let me bring this up for you guys. Someone posted this image here on... Right, someone posted this image on Facebook. And so here it is right here. And you can kind of see, but the problem is this is after AJ threw his bag. His bag is already in flight. You can see his foot right there, and it is very, very close. It's not a great image, and I'm assuming, I don't know where they got this from. I never saw this posted by the ACL. I never saw this on the stream. I never saw this. I'd love to see this actual video instead of the screenshot of it to see exactly if his foot was over. It's very close there. I actually went into my software here. Let me pull this up. And I tried to, let me move this for a second here. So I zoomed in here. You can see now I zoomed in on this and it really could get in. And there's a piece of pixel right here that's missing. That's hard to tell where the line is. So I got a straight line here that I pulled in and I tried to draw the line down. Now, if I take this line and I match up with that corner there, it looks like his foot's out. The problem is down here in this front corner, there's something weird going on. I don't see where that actual, back here I can kind of see where that corner is. I can't tell here. Right? It's so pixelated, it's hard to tell. So if I match that up right there, his foot is right on the edge. But if I then swing this around to try to match that front corner and the back corner, all of a sudden it gets closer. There's gray area there to me. There's enough gray area there to me that I can't tell from this image if his foot was over or not. And the problem that we have, again, in that footage there in the video, let me pull that back up, is you can see where the official is standing, right? So AJ throws. Now watch on the left-hand side. The official is over there. Now I think the official is looking down the line. But from that angle, from that side away, how can the official tell if his foot is over the line or not, right? I don't know how the official knows for sure that his foot, because again, the foot is here. The official is looking from this angle. Just because the official sees red on the shoe doesn't mean that the foot is not still in the box, but maybe the sole of the shoe is kind of curled up. Because I don't really know if the rule, how the rule applies. Do you have to be touching the black of the box? And the thing is too, is about the side of the box. After you throw, your foot can go outside the box. It's only the front line that you're not supposed to be able to go across it, which you can technically cross the line. You can't touch the ground over the front, but it says nothing about that sideline. There's nothing that sideline says that you can't touch the ground before your bag touches the board. You just have to be in that box. But in the box, does that mean if the box extends, the line extends vertically up, you have to break that plane? Or does that mean your foot has to be touching the black in the box? I don't really know for sure on that. I'm assuming it means you have to be touching the black, which would maybe mean the official saw a little red line. I don't know. Again, I wish there was a better view of that, a better angle, a clearer picture of that to really see if there's a definitive shot that proves that when he releases that bag, his foot is over the line, that they still should just put that out there. Maybe they have and I missed it. I haven't seen it, but put that out there and protect that official. Like I'm giving the official the benefit of the doubt in both cases. I'm assuming the official is correct. The problem is the ACL hasn't stood up to protect either of those officials to say, here's the evidence to prove that they're right. And if you've got the evidence, put it out there. Let us see it. But again, for foot fouls, both of those cost both players or teams the game. Like that foot foul had a huge impact on that game. There needs to be a way for players to, if you're gonna have rules and you're gonna enforce them and they're gonna make that big of an impact on the game, there needs to be a way for players to challenge or dispute that in some way. Like I feel like, because these don't happen very often, like give the players like one challenge a game, right? If you want to challenge a ruling on the court, Give them one challenge. Now, if you give them a challenge, you have to have a video evidence or some way to go back and review that and try to prove it one or the other. If it's, at least, I guess it's like the NFL, right? It has to be conclusive. So if the official makes a call and it's inconclusive, I don't know. Do you go with the official or do you go with the player? I don't know, right? I mean, maybe I feel like if it's inconclusive, I feel like for a play that's going to impact the game, it has to be conclusive evidence to prove that the player was over the line or outside the box. If it's inconclusive, you give the player the benefit of the doubt. That would be my take on it. But give each player, each team one challenge per game. That's it. Because in most games, I don't think you have an issue, and it's only going to be in the broadcast courts or on the other courts we're playing. There isn't a problem there, or you have to have a camera or let the official call the foul, and especially in that case, let the official call the foul, and then give them a quick second to go review the video. Maybe they can say, "Hey, I want to double check that on the video," or something. In the NBA, a lot of times they'll call fouls. The official can go review the replay to verify if the call is right, if they have an issue, or like maybe they question if ball's out of bounds. They're not sure who last touched it. They can go review the play to be sure they get it right. I feel like getting the call right is more important than anything else. So if they're across the line, make that call. Let's prove it. Let's move on. No problem. If they're not across the line, the official made a bad call, then let's fix it and let's keep the game playing. Like I feel like officials are humans, players are humans, mistakes happen. Nothing wrong with that. Let's just make sure we get it right. And I feel like this is becoming an issue now to the point that we need to make sure that if we're going to enforce this, we're enforcing it correctly. And as a consumer, I feel like I'm not part of the game, but I'm watching, I'm consuming. I feel like I have a right to see that replay. I have a right to know if the call was right or not. Like I want that. It doesn't feel right to me that these players lost. And from what I can see, I can't tell. I can't tell in either case if the official made the right call or the wrong call. I have no idea on either one of those. And I think we have the information. The ACL has the information there to prove, I would guess, right or wrong on those calls. Put it out there. Let us see it. Let us have the definitive answer. I went on that too long, so I'm jumping away from that. The next thing I want to talk about the ACL is the yearly awards. They give out, what is they called? The Stevie Awards. They give out the MVPs and the Player of the Year and whatever, blah, blah, blah. The ACL needs to wait until Worlds is over to make those awards, I think, because MVP, for example, Mark Richards won MVP. Before Worlds, I agree, Mark Richards was MVP of the league. After Worlds, I think Jamie Graham deserves it. Jamie Graham won his third title. He deserves to get the MVP award for the season. But before Worlds, I do think Mark was the right call. And so I feel like that needs to, why not wait till after Worlds? Because here's the thing, right? I get it. They want to do it during the week of Worlds because people are there. But think about this. This is the off season. There's not a lot going on. What if the week after Worlds, you now put a live stream up and you give out these awards, and now you're relevant for another week, a week longer, right? You have content to put out there after the fact. Right? I just feel like there's no harm in waiting a week or 2 weeks, or wait till the first week in the season for next season to put out the past awards and give them out, right? You do the draft, and also all the players are gonna be there. So have your Stevie Awards then and announce the winners. There's no harm in waiting longer. I think the longer you wait, the better the chance of getting the right people, the right awards. I just feel like MVP was the big one. I don't remember what the other awards were that were decided there. Rookie of the Year was one, but I think Gabriel Clausen won Rookie of the Year. Turns out, even after Worlds, I still would have given it to him. Maybe it was a little more questionable before Worlds, but after Worlds, he was the only rookie that made it. He made it to the Final Four in singles. Didn't win it in Worlds, but he made it further along. I think that was the right call. I don't remember what the other awards were. I mean, I didn't even watch the awards show. I don't care. But for those that do, I feel like wait till after Worlds to put those out. On the ACO side, I would say that there was no real issues I saw watching their Worlds event. Nothing more than what I talked about the more streaming courts and just a better way I need a better way to follow along. Again, I don't know how to do that. Scornhole is great for playing. I don't think Scornhole is great for following the bracket. The information's there. It's not in a format that I find easily digestible. And there's no knock on Scornhole whatsoever. I love Scornhole. I think it's a great software. I support them. I have no problem there. I just think it's designed for running tournaments and playing in tournaments. It's not really designed to follow along and watch tournaments very well. So there needs to be a better way to figure that out. And again, that's for both leagues. The one thing I'll say about the ACO is I do think they need to work on their image. I've seen this time and time again. It's becoming every time, especially offseason, becomes a big debate. The people view the ACO as the minor leagues or the lesser league, or they have lesser talent players than what the ACL has. And I've always said all along that the top players in the ACO could compete with the top players in the ACL, no problem whatsoever. The ACL is a little bit deeper, I think, depth-wise, just because the problem with the ACO has been around a lot longer than the ACL. I don't know if people realize they've been around quite a bit longer. The ACO has been around for over a decade. I don't know when they started. I think it started 2000. Gosh, I have to look that up here. When was the first ACO Worlds? First ACO Worlds was 2006. So they've been around for almost 20 years. I was way off on that. The ACL has been around for almost 20 years. A long time. ACL has been around maybe a little less than a decade for the ACL, but the ACL has been relevant for more than, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. I feel like they've been kind of relevant. So the ACO has had the opportunity. If you go through and look through the past World Championships, the past King of Cornholes on the ACO side, Matt Guy. In fact, Matt Guy, people don't know, Matt Guy won the first 5 ACO Kings of Cornhole, right? And then I think he won a couple more after that. I think he's won 7 or 8 King of Cornholes, which is why Matt Guy is the GOAT, right? I mean, Jamie Graham won his 3rd singles title, great. And then Jamie Graham, I think, won 1 King of Cornhole. So Jamie Graham has 4 world titles. I think Matt Guy has 7, right? And Matt Guy's been doing it for 20 years. Jamie Graham's been doing it for less than 10, right? So I think longevity has something to do with it. Matt Guy's still very competitive after 20 years of playing. Let's see Jamie in another 10 years, see where he is, and maybe he'll surpass it. Right now, to me, Matt Guy is the GOAT. There's no question. There's no debate. You can't. There's nothing you can tell me that would change my mind on that. Matt Guy is the GOAT because he's been doing it for a lot longer. He has more titles than anyone else as far as the World Championship titles that matter to me. That I don't care about opens or majors or whatever. I think those are irrelevant because not irrelevant, but I don't think those matter, right? Those are like regular season wins in the NFL. I don't care who has the most regular season wins. I care about who wins the Super Bowl. That's all that matters. Who has the most Super Bowl wins? That's what matters to me. Matt Guy has more than anyone else. He deserves to be the GOAT. But anyway, you go through the list of players that won on the ACO side, right? Matt Guy won. Eric Zockline's on the list. Isidro Herrera, Brett Guy, Jeff Reynolds. Jamie Graham, as I mentioned. You have Ryan Windsor. Then, Matt Guy won 8. Won another one there. Matt Guy's won 8 of them. Gary Ferguson, Craig Irvin, Jeremiah Ellis, and then Isaac Hurt, and then Sebastian Barger's recently won. There's a lot of elite ACL guys on the ACO side. If the ACO had kept all of those players on their side, their league would be leaps and bounds ahead of the ACL. The problem is the ACO had a problem with payouts. The ACL came along, started promising more money, giving more money. Players jumped from the ACO to the ACL because of the money. Now the ACL is kind of taking some of that money away. The ACL is a little bit tougher, I think, travel-wise because they have less events, more spread out across the country, where the ACO has like 40-some majors through the year all over the country. And the majors and super majors. The ACL has 11 opens and 6 signature events, right? So they have 17 events, 40-ish from ACO. There's a better chance if you're playing the ACO, there are more events closer to you, easier to travel to, where the ACL, there's a good chance that if you want to go play, you're going to have to fly to several of those to get your required tournaments in to keep your pro status. So it's tougher. It's not impossible. Now, the ACL has made some changes so that if you're not at the top 100 pro, you can qualify just playing your state side. I don't know how I feel about that. I haven't really dove into that much, but they've made it easier to become a pro on the ACL side. But I think we're going to see, I've heard rumors that there's some elite level ACL pros that may go back to the ACO just because it's easier on them and their jobs and their family life, their work life, family life. It's just it's easier for them to fit into their schedule than the ACL is. No problem whatsoever. No knock on them. Like I said, I would love to see an ACO versus ACL tournament. We'll never see that because the ACL won't allow it. Although I've said this before, I do think that tournament could exist outside of both leagues. Someone just puts together an independent tournament, get sponsors in there. Let's bring the top 20 ACL players versus the top 20 ACO players. Make sure the payment is right. Or maybe you bring the top 10. Bring the top 10 from each. You have 20 spots. Pay out all 20 spots. Everybody shows up, gets money for that tournament, or whatever, how many spots you want. Make sure everybody gets paid, and let's run a tournament, and let's kind of put this to this debate to the end. I just think people who play only in the ACL don't really realize the competition of the ACO. And honestly, I think some of the best cornhole players in the world aren't even playing either league, right? To be a pro cornholer is more of a burden than it is a benefit. So a lot of your best players aren't even playing or trying to play. And until the pro side becomes a legitimate avenue for players to become to make it a full-time job, I don't think you're going to get all the best players to show up and play, right? Most of us need jobs. Most of us have families to support. Most of us need benefits. Most of us can't afford to just go play pro cornhole and give up all the security we have in our jobs right now to chase that dream, right? That's why you see more of the younger players taking that path, because they can afford to do it at a younger age because they have less responsibility. They can afford to do it, and then if it doesn't work out, they can still go down and find a career and go down more of a traditional career path. And if it does work out, they can stay on that path, right? So until Cornhole figures that out, I don't think you're going to have the best players playing in either league whatsoever. But that being said, I think the ACO has an issue with the image. They need to figure out a way to change that image. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how it is. I don't know how you do that, but they've got to figure out a way to change. Part of it is trying to keep their better players staying in their league. Keep those players in the ACO. Don't let the Jeremiah Ellises, don't let the Matt Guys and the Tanner Halberts and the Jamie Gramps and the Eric Davises and the Ryan Windsor, those who are in your league, don't let them leave. Like keep them there. Make it so they want to stay and play in the ACO. I don't know why they left, and I'm sure they all have their reasons. But whatever it is, the ACO needs to figure that out and needs to change that image and change that perception if they want to be considered a legitimate league. Because right now, more and more people are looking at them as an inferior league and not really respecting them like they should be respected. And I think, a Sebastian Barger, an Isaac Hurt, a Caleb Hurt, a Braden Easterling, any of those players, you got Scotty Ball and Gavin Kirk win the doubles in the ACO. Like, those are players that go to an ACL event and win an event, and I wouldn't surprise me one bit whatsoever. They're at that level. They're good enough to win an ACL event. And it shouldn't surprise anybody. ACL or ACL shouldn't surprise you that those players can do it. But I think on the ACL side, they look at those players and go, "Oh no, they're like advanced players at best, and they're not even close to competing." And that's an image that needs to be changed. If the ACO needs to figure out how to address that and change it. I don't know what the answer is. And I'm not saying the ACO is better. I'm not saying the ACL is better. I think they're both. I think the elite on both sides are playing about the same level, right? That the skill level is the same, and in any given day, any one of those top 20 in the league could win a tournament between all of them. I think that's very possible. You get down to 50 or 60 or 70 in the list, and maybe the ACL starts having the advantage there. But the top 15 or 20, I think it's pretty balanced. Definitely top 10 for sure. And that's something I will probably never have an answer to. I'd love to see that tournament happen. I don't think we'll ever see it. Anyway, jump into changes here for the new season. I know I'm rambling on a long time. I'm trying to shorten this down, but changes. We already had some new partner announcements for the new season on the ACL side. Logan Chamberlain and Justin Burton Jr. are splitting up, and Logan is now going to partner with Gavin Cano, which means Gavin Cano and Sammy Soto are splitting up. Sammy Soto is joining Colby Shearer, which means Colby Shearer and Matt Wilson are splitting up, which is interesting because if you go to the final standings on doubles for the ACL side, Justin Burton Jr. and Logan Chamberlain were the number 3 doubles team. Sammy Soto, Gavin Cano were number 4. And then if you look all the way down, at number 11, Colby Shearer and Matt Wilson. So 3 of the top 11 teams in doubles are splitting up and getting new teammates. That's a lot. I mean, these teams have had success. And I've talked about before, when it comes to doubles, team chemistry matters. When Mark and Tony got together, their first season, they had a good season, not a great season. Matt Guy, Jamie Graham, their first season, they had a good season, not a great season. Like, I think it takes a year or so for these teams to really mesh, these players to mesh and become better. And so the longer they stay together, the better they're going to play. I know that, I just think Logan and Gavin, both individually great players. I just don't know if them coming together is going to be this superstar team that people expected to be year one. There may be a learning curve when they get together to try to figure out. This year, Jeremiah Ellis and Devin Harbaugh, Ultra put those two together. Ellis and Ryan Hart were finished the season number 1 doubles team last year, and then now Harbaugh and Ellis are number 6. Right, still a great finish, but not number 1 where Ellis and Hart were. So even though you put and look, I don't think Devin Harbaugh is a worse player than Ryan Hart. Maybe he's a little bit better, but because there's that team chemistry is in there, it took a while. They got better as the season went on. Devin and Jeremiah did. Maybe if the season kept going, or if they stay together for the next season, maybe they start picking up and they'll do better. But I do think there is a learning curve. So when you see these new teams come out, I wouldn't be shocked to see Logan and Gavin kind of take a dip in this first, at least for the first part of the season, until they figure it out. Now, them both being from Texas, maybe they play together a lot. Knowing each other and playing occasional is different than playing together at an elite level. I think there is something there. And same with Sammy and Colby. I don't know how. I don't know how much they play together, because I think Colby's from North Carolina or somewhere in that area, and Sammy's Texas. I don't know how much they've really spent together, how much they know each other. So it's going to be interesting to see how these new teams, if they do better than the current existing teams, right? And I don't know why the breakups. I don't know anything. I've heard some rumors from Justin Burton Jr. maybe stepping back a little bit, because I think he's having a kid, so he's starting to have a family. Maybe he won't be as into playing quite as much, and maybe Logan wants to go a different route. That may be it. I don't know. Pure speculation. I have no idea on that. I don't know what happened between Gavin and Sammy. Thought they had a great year. Thought they were starting to kind of get things together. In fact, they won a signature event. Gavin kind of broke through and finally won one of the big events with Sammy, and now he's kind of bailing, leaving him and going to Logan. So I don't know what happened there. I thought Matt Wilson and Colby Shearer were really starting to figure it out, and they had some good runs. They were on some broadcasts there towards the end. I was rooting for them. I love watching those two play. It's sad to see them split up. So it does leave some questions as far as what's happening to Justin Burton Jr. and what's happening to Matt Wilson. I'm sure we're going to see some more teams split up. It just seems like every year it seems to happen, as well as seeing who ends up with what bag companies for next year. That's curious to see as well. So a lot of new changes coming for next season. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the bag companies. We've already heard announcements from Fly Cornhole and Stuff Cornhole. Both of them are leaving the ACL and going to the ACO. Well, I know Fly's going to ACO. I don't know if Stuff's announced they're going to ACO or not. I haven't heard that for sure. I probably should look that up. I know Fly's going ACO for next season already. They've already announced that. I think they're going to plan on having announcing some new bags maybe this week as well. And by the time you watch this, they may have already been announced. I don't know. But I think I've heard some rumors they're getting ready to announce their new bag lineup for this season 21 for the ACO. Why they left, I don't know. Honestly, I don't think it's always about money. When back every year, bag companies leave the ACL, bag companies come in. So I don't think it's necessarily a doom and gloom. Oh my gosh, the ACL's losing these bag companies. Whatever. I don't know if that's the case. I think sometimes companies realize, hey, my time in the ACL is done. I've done what I could do. I want to now go a different direction. I think Buffalo's a great example. I think they left because they wanted to get. The ACL wants a lot of control of your company, right? The ACL likes to have control, and so they kind of have their hands in a lot of the things for the bag companies. And I think sometimes bag companies, sometimes they get to the point where, okay, you know what? I want to have my freedom back and to make the bags I want to make and to do what I want to do. The ACO gives you a lot more freedom, and especially if you go non-stamp, you have complete control to do what you want, right? There's regulations are there. I get the ACL wanting some control because they want to make sure that the bags are meeting the right specifications, although the ACL had some problems this year with bags failing from companies that I think were making bags that weren't meeting the specs that the ACL didn't really kind of address. I don't think. That's a whole other issue. Maybe we'll get into that later. I don't know. That's something that's maybe I don't want to dive into too much, but I get the ACL wanting to have control to protect their league and protect themselves, but I also understand the companies wanting to have their freedom to be independent. Because one of the things I really hate is the ACL's rule at the broadcast courts. We're having bags of a solid color. I want to see these bag companies be able to show off their bags and put some cool designs. Like there's some really great design cornhole bags out there that would look awesome on a broadcast court, look awesome under the lights, people would see and go, whoa, that's cool. I want to know what that bag is. But the ACL takes away that creativity from the bag companies on broadcast courts. Say, no, they've got to be the same color. And they even now make them match the players' jerseys, which is the stupidest thing in the world, right? And who even notices that the jersey and the bag are supposed to match? Who even cares, right? I don't care one bit. I don't care. The only thing I care about is I want the bags to be different enough that I can tell who's throwing what. But that's all I care. As long as I can distinguish which bag is which, that's all I care about. I love seeing the cool designs. I love seeing the bright colors. I love seeing the creativity of these bag companies. I don't know why the ACL is holding them back and restricting them, especially on the broadcast courts, the biggest stages where they can showcase their company, and the ACL saying, no, we don't want you to do that. We want you to be plain and boring. And plain and boring doesn't sell bags, right? Flashy, creativity, edgy, that's what sells bags, not plain and boring. So that's something the ACL needs to fix on their side is get rid of this whole thing of the broadcast court as to be boring. Let's make the broadcast court exciting. And that starts with the bags. And honestly, I've said before, the jerseys, I hate the fact, and this is ACO and ACL, I hate the fact the players have jerseys that really don't let them showcase their sponsors, right? Those players earn their spot on their broadcast court. Let them wear the jerseys that showcase and support their sponsors and put their bag companies or their main sponsors out there, and let them use that airtime that they've earned to promote the companies that are supporting them, right? they shouldn't be promoting the companies that the leagues want them to support. Or on the ACO side, I don't think they even have sponsors. Like the ACO gives them a jersey that just has ACO, it doesn't have any sponsors on there. The ACL has the big Bush's Baked Beans across the middle, their main sponsor, and then they have the players can put the little sponsors all over the place, but everybody sees the main Bush's Baked Beans. They don't see necessarily the other logos of the other, or they're harder to see. They don't stand out as much. And I've said that before. The leagues need to let the players promote the companies that support them, because in the long run, that's going to benefit the players, which means they're going to want to stay in the leagues, which means it's going to benefit the leagues in the long run. So you got to look big picture. You're playing the long game, and sometimes that means taking a step back from your sponsorship and taking your Bush's Bean sponsor off the jerseys and letting the players put their sponsors on there in the prime spot to promote them, so that they stick with your league and help build and grow your league. That's what it needs. But anyway, that's my take on that. Last thing I'm going to jump to here real quick, and we'll finish this up, and that's the Bag Makers Championship. We have the final standings for both of those. So we're going to jump in and talk about that, and I'm going to start here with the single side, I think. And let me go over this real quick. I'll pull it up standings, and we'll go over this, and I got some thoughts on this I want to share with you guys. But on the single side, BG ended up winning it. They ended up with 221.5 points. Lucky was second, 178.5. AAR was third, 172.25. Those three dominated the standings here. Fourth place was All Cornhole with 90 points. The All Cornhole that didn't pay their players. I should dock them points and take them out as all together. But that just goes to show, right? All Cornhole players were playing really well for them, and yet they still couldn't pay their players, which means they have a marketing problem. They have an issue. If you've got players that are winning and placing really highly in these events, and yet you're still not selling bags, there's something more going on there. Titan was 5th, 89.5. Brotherhood 6th, 39.5. Ultra 7th, 62.25. And then Cornhole Scenario was 8th, 49.75. Fire was 9th, 39. And it jumps down from there. Fly was 10th with 18 points. So really the top three had a chance, but honestly BG ran away with it. And then my biggest takeaway on this doubles, and this singles. Let me jump to the double side, and then I'll give you my biggest takeaway, and I'll jump back on this here for a second too as well. On the double side, BG also took first with 218.75 points. Lucky was second with 182.5. So BG and Lucky were number 1 and 2 on both. In fact, AAR was number 1. It was 1, 2, 3 were the same. AAR was third on doubles, 147.75. And then we had Titan at 115. Ultra was 5th at 103.5. Brotherhood 6th, 62. Then All Cornhole was 7th at 60.75. Fire 8th, 57.75. Cornhole Scenario was 9th at 54.5, and it dropped way off after that. So my biggest takeaway in this is BG dominated both of them, which wasn't surprising, because BG, I think, sponsors more pro players than any other company, and they have a lot of the elite pros playing for them. The one thing that stood out was BG was the only company on both sides that placed in the top 12 at every single event as far as the open, signature events, and worlds. That's why they won both events, was more because they had the quantity. I don't want to say they don't have quality. They had elite. But if you go through and look, especially on doubles, right? Mark and Tony started dominating towards the end. On doubles, I mean, BG won 3 opens and 2 signature events. Lucky, they won. It wasn't just Mark and Tony, but Lucky won 4 opens, so 1 more than BG, and then they won 3 signatures, 1 more. So 3-2 for BG, 4-3 for Lucky, and then Lucky won the World Championship. So Lucky actually had more first place finishes than BG did, but there was 3 events where Lucky did not place in the top 12. They got 0 points for. So that's the gap. That's the difference right there, is just 3 events or 3 opens. If I take the average finish or the average points on the events where they placed the top 12, Lucky actually has a 12.17 average. BG is a 12.15. So from that perspective, because Lucky has a lot less pro players than BG did, from that perspective, I think Lucky performed better. When they placed in the top 12, they had a better finish. They had more wins. But when I take the way I had it set up, BG wins and wins by a lot. It's not that close. So I feel like because of that, I need to readjust how I'm doing my score. If I'm going to do this next year, I need to rethink my scoring. Just because BG has more players and the volume of players they throw at this, it's just going to be unfair in that aspect, because it's not getting me the information I want. It's getting me the volume of the BG throws is I gotta figure something. Maybe I only take the top 2 teams, the top 4 players from each company going in, the top ranked ones going into that tournament, and then I see how they place, maybe, or I don't know. I need to figure out something different to make it a little bit to balance things out, right? And on the single side, I did the average on the single side, and actually BG won with the average of 12.31. Lucky was second, 12.12, and AAR was third, 12.09. So the average was a little bit more, still different on the single side. But again, on the single side, there was 3 events that Lucky did not place in the top 12, and BG placed in all of the events in the top 12. So that's, again, the big difference. Not saying that if Lucky was still had to place pretty high in those 3 to catch BG, but that's the gap between the 2. And so I need to figure out a way to not punish the companies that don't have as many pro players, right? Because then you go down, like there's some companies that only had a few times they placed in the top, but when they did, they placed really well, right? But they, again, sometimes I don't even know if every bag company had a representation at every single open, right? There's some opens that didn't have as many people turn out, and maybe some of these bag companies didn't even have anyone there, yet they're kind of being punished for not having somebody there because they had no one to compete to place in that, right? So I need to figure out a way to balance this out so the smaller companies can compete better with the bigger companies and take away the advantages of just having more players to throw at it, get you points. I need to figure that out, and I don't want to do it. We've got a few months probably to think about this, because I don't think the ACL season starts until October sometime, I believe. So there's time to think about this and tweak this. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If you enjoyed this, maybe if you got some ideas on better ideas on how to do this, I don't know. I don't want to make it too complicated, because I don't want to be spending hours after every event trying to figure out the points. I want to make it a simple point system. I'll figure it out, but I'd love to hear your ideas. If you have some thoughts, share them with me. We can talk about that for the next few months and figure it out maybe before the next season starts. But anyway, that's all I got for this episode. I know I've kind of rambled on a lot of things. There's still some other topics I want to talk about. If there's something you want to hear me talk about, or you have some thoughts on things I didn't cover or I did cover, drop a comment down below, shoot me a message, shoot me an email, MikesCornholeBags@gmail.com, whatever. Get in touch with me however you want. I always love hearing you guys' thoughts. If there are topics you want me to talk about, let me know. But anyway, as always, I thank you guys so much for your support, and I thank you for watching.